Hey guys, it is Brandi here with Brandi Does Beauty, and excuse my froggy voice. I don't know what kind of summer situation cold I have going on, but you're gonna get sexy voice Brandi today. But that is besides the point, because today I want to talk with you guys about confident decision making, and I'm so excited because this jazzes me up, because so many of us so often are stuck and frozen in this situation, this state of indecision that is really wasting our time. So you guys know that a lot of time here on this channel I'm talking about makeup and beauty and how to run a successful SeneGence business and be amazing and change your life in that way. But today this conversation doesn't really have anything directly to do with that, but everything indirectly to do with that. Because if you can feel confident in your decision making, that's going to make everything in your life go so much more smoothly. You're going to spend a lot less time hanging out, wasting your time, unsure of, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? I don't know. I'm not very good at this. Maybe I shouldn't. I better wait until I know more. Stop. Stop. We are going to quit that. We are going to become confident decision makers. And you guys, I have two really simple, really amazing tips to help you push through and make decisions more efficiently and more effectively. But before we dive into that, we need to talk a little bit more about what you're doing, right? Why do we even hang out in that space? I think it's really important to understand why we do what we do, so then we can notice and see those triggers when they start happening. So we're like, oh, that's why I'm doing that, and I have to stop, right? You can't be aware of a problem until you really understand why you have that problem in the first place. So if you're feeling like you're struggling with making decisions, that there's all these things you want to do, all these decisions that need to be made, but you're just frozen, I've got some tips. But first and foremost, you need to know that sitting in a state of indecision, you guys, that's actually a really indulgent emotion. All right. A lot of us, we talk ourselves into thinking that I'm just waiting until I know more, right? I'm going to make this decision once I'm a little more educated. I'm here to tell you that can really be indulgent when you linger in that space. Okay. It's a lot easier, and you're with me on this, right? It's a lot easier to just say, I don't know. Let me think on that, right? Think right now. I guarantee you there are thoughts popping in my head, so I know there are thoughts popping in your head of times that you have looked at someone and you have said, can I get back to you on that? Knowing full well you knew the answer. You knew the answer. It was just indulgent of you to walk away and tell them that decision at another time, right? It is an indulgent emotion to linger in indecision. So that's why we want to start making confident decisions, right? We want to move out of that so you don't have to live in this fear-based place, which a lot of times, you guys, that's really what that is. It's you're sitting in this fear, you're uncertain, you feel like you don't know enough. That's not real life. You're just telling yourself that, right? It's just easier to be indulgent. So I want to encourage you to have your own back, okay? Please promise me you're going to watch this and you're going to be like, okay, Brandi, I can do that. I can have my own back. When I make a decision, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm going to have my own back, because there's going to be a lot of people that don't have your own back. Let me just tell you that from experience. So you have to have your own back in your decisions. And please be confident in that, right? You are the one making the decisions. Please have your own back in that, because there's no bad decisions, right? It's really important to note a decision is only bad if you decide it's bad. Are you hearing me on that? A decision is only bad when you decide it is a bad decision. So if you have your own back, right? You have your own back. You can go confidently moving forward in making these decisions, because you're going to leave it out. You're going to say, I'm deciding, right? I'm making the choice to not linger and thinking that this is a bad decision. I'm going to keep moving on. It's also important to know that there really is no failure, right? A lot of us live in this fear of failure. We're so afraid to make decisions because we don't want it to be the wrong decision. We don't want to fail. We don't want to make a mistake, right? Again, tell me that you're thinking of times, even maybe a current situation right now, where you're living in that. I do not want to decide on something because what if it's wrong? I'm afraid. I'm fearful. You guys, there really is no failure. There's only learning. So once you start to realize and embrace that failure is a mindset, right? You decide for it to be a bad decision. You decide for it to be a failure. Once you let go of that and realize there is no failure, there is only learning, it's going to be so much easier to move forward in your life and to continue making really great, amazing decisions that even if they don't go exactly as planned, you don't have to beat yourself up about it. You have your own back. There are no bad decisions. And you're just learning, right? Like if it sucked, you just learned something. A really great example that I love is I was able to, earlier this year with one of my best friends, Cassie, go to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within, right? Like super amazing experience. Tony Robbins was awesome, hands down. But one really amazing exercise that we went through was a game of Simon Says. Right? Super simple. Most of you have probably played Simon Says in your life. In this activity, the way it works is someone is the Simon, right? Simon says, touch your nose, and everybody touches their nose. Simon says a next activity, and you do that, and you follow suit, follow suit, follow suit. But the Simon may throw in at any point in time, touch your nose. But if Simon doesn't say, and you do it, you're out of the game. So that's how the game works, right? So we're going through this massive game, 12,000 plus people in this giant room going through a game of Simon Says. And we're going through it, obviously, as the activity goes on, people are sitting down, I'm sitting down, my friends are sitting down, people are going out until there's only one person standing, right? One person standing. And when we got done, Joseph McClellan III, the gentleman that was leading the training that day, says, okay, you guys, you all failed at that game. You were all failures at that game. Obviously, only one person is left standing, so that means you failed. But I want you to think about this. Did you learn something? In that activity, watching how this played out, seeing this man stand up here as the one person left standing, did you learn something? I want to ask you right now, if we played that game right now, if we played another game right now, would you go further? Raise your hand. Right? So many of us raised our hands. Like the majority of the crowd, we raised our hands because I can tell you the minute I made that mistake and I had to sit down, I was like, dang it. I knew that. I thought too fast. I knew that. That was a mistake. So I was like instantly raising my hand. Like I would definitely go further the next time. So you need to think about your decisions that way, right? It's not a failure. It's learning. The next time you do that, right? You made a mistake. It seemed like a failure. It seemed really scary and awful and horrible. You learned something. You're not going to do that the same way the next time, and you're going to go further. You're going to go further in your life, right? Super great way to think of that I absolutely love. Decisions are made in an instant. We can all think that we're hemming and hawing and waiting to learn a little bit more, and that we need more information until we can make a decision. But all decisions are made in an instant. We've all been there when somebody said something. Like I can think of many examples when people were like, "Oh, we should get together next weekend," and I'm like thinking in my head like, "I just really want to stay home next weekend. I don't really want to do anything." And I'm like, "Yeah, let me go home and look at my calendar. Let me think on that." It is indulgent of me to do that, right? It is easier for me to not decide and to kind of like wait it out until the last minute than to just make the decision. And I can always change the decision, right? Maybe I make the decision and I say, you know what? I really just want to stay at home and have a relaxing weekend. Thank you so much for the invite. That's not going to work out. And then maybe a couple days go by and I'm like, you know what? I really got caught up on some things around the house that I wanted to do. And like, that would be kind of fun. I can call that person up and I can say, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Do you still want to get together? I'm free now. Or I can say, hey, maybe that doesn't work, but maybe next weekend works, right? So don't, like a decision is made in an instant. Don't live in that like very, very indulgent space when you know you can make a decision and you can keep moving forward, because that's exactly the point, is that once you make a decision, you can start making more decisions, and decisions come easily, and you can always choose to make a new decision. So many times, and again, I see this all the time, so many times we move forward with a decision, and if we feel like it's been a bad decision, if we don't have our own back, if we start getting fearful of what we did, and maybe this isn't right, or maybe I'm not as good as I thought at this, a lot of times we back out of that, right? We make a decision, we start to get a little nervous, we worry it's the wrong one, we get a little fearful, and we back out, and we go back to indecision. I want to tell you, to make confident decisions and to see awesome change in your life, make the decision. And if it starts to get fearful and it starts to get scary, I want to encourage you, make a new decision. At any point in time, you can choose to make a new decision. I just highlighted in that past story, right? So I say, oh, I don't want to come over for the weekend. I make a decision. I'm not being indulgent. I'm not wasting anybody's time. I'm not wasting my own time, right? I'm not wasting my own time. Like, I should really decide if I'm going to do that or not. I've already decided. I already know I don't want to go. I make the decision. Then I decide, right? Oh, wait, I've caught up on things. I do want to go. I do want to do that. I make a new decision. I move forward. Nobody's time is wasted. My time is not wasted. And it helps me, even though that decision may seem small. You're like, Brandi, you don't know the really huge decisions I have in my life. Like, I have some giant decisions. Like, you don't even understand. Like, this is not small fries. Like, do I want to hang out or not this weekend? It's like some really tough stuff. But that does apply in everything. Little decisions in every step, knowing that you have your own back. You trust your own decisions. You know there are no wrong decisions, and you give yourself the grace to make a new decision at any point in time. You are going to be so much more confident and able to move through the decision moving process. And then you're going to be making action, and action creates more action. So instead of feeling like you're in this wishy-washy place of, I'm not sure what I'm doing with my life, oh, this is really frustrating, I don't know what to do, start making a decision and keep making decisions. And that's going to lead to action and new action. And before you know it, you're going to look back and be like, I can't believe I wasted so much time back there, because this decision making stuff is a lot easier than I thought it would be, because I've got a little grace, I've got a little understanding, and I'm not afraid that I'm going to mess up, because I know no matter what, I'm going to learn something. So that's kind of like why we live in that space, right? Now we know why we're there, why we're doing those things, and why we need to get out of that space. And so here are my 2 tips, my 2 really simple tips. If you're still struggling, if you're still like, Brandi, but I'm serious. Like, I've got some heavy stuff on my plate to decide. It's not like, do I or don't I start my own business? It's not, do I or don't I go out for dinner? Do I or don't I make this decision for my kids? It's like heavy stuff. My 2 tips for you are, if you're having trouble making decisions, I want you to think about, in this decision, what would your 10-year-older self do, right? Our 10-year-older self is always a little bit wiser. We've seen a little bit more. We've got a bigger heart. We've had more experience. Sit and think, what would my 10-year-old self do? Is this decision that I'm going back and forth on, that I'm living in indecision, I'm maybe fearful about, what choice will move me closer to where I want to be with my 10-year-old self, right? So much wiser. You can kind of think outside the situation. You can think outside of the immediate what's going on, what's going to happen right away, and think, ooh, but in the long run, does that serve my purpose? What would my 10-year-older self do? The second one is, and this is my absolute favorite one, what would love do? If you're struggling with a decision, especially like family, relationships, those emotionally personal fueled decisions that we often face, what would love do, right? When you're dealing with other humans, especially, what would love do? I love this so much. If you're a child of the 90s, you can think of the old WWJD bracelets that everyone used to wear that was so popular. What would Jesus do, right? What would love do? Because so often, when we're in a state of indecision, that can be fueled by hatred and jealousy and frustration and all of those negative emotions. We are going to make some bad decisions, or you might say decisions that are not going to lead us in the path that we want to, because we all know that there are no such things as bad decisions, right? We only decide it's bad. But you're going to make decisions that you might regret. Let's say it that way. You're going to make some decisions that you might regret. You might feel like we're not the right path to where you want to be, because you're making decisions based on jealousy, on frustration. If you make a decision based on what would love do, you are going to move much more smoothly into the direction that you want to be going. You're going to feel more confident about that decision, because you guys, you can never do something based on love and really feel regret from that, right? If it comes from a place of love, you are going to feel very confident in that space. So I